What's up, Stevie?
Hello,
How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all good. I'm getting started with this week. Already had some things done, but it's always somehow the Monday morning always feel different.
Well, that's good. It's a new week, new opportunities.
Yeah,
I've got my just had my Trello open, and I've got just like a massive stack of things to do and crack on with. But obviously, you being right at the top.
yeah. Another Trello user. It's actually fun. I
Yes,
use it as well. It's a great
yeah,
plugin.
love it. It's awesome. I use it for both sort of like work and home life. It's great for just keeping track of things and yeah, I couldn't be without it.
Yeah, me neither. I like to tick off the boxes, when it's done, and then start
Yeah,
swiping it
e-
around, and yeah,
exactly.
love
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So it's actually fun how this all happened. We
Mm,
got connected through a client of mine,
yeah,
and he approached me and said like, "Hey, I'm working with this guy right now, and you must talk to him because he's such a great guy and he delivers such great work. I think he has an inspirational story. So why don't you guys meet up?" And he connected us, and
yeah.
here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, so I think most of the people listening right now, because my audience is mainly music producers, like the EDM producers, kind of.
Yeah,
That's the
sure.
main audience,
Yeah,
and I think most of those people will probably have heard your work without them even knowing it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Could you tell a bit more about what you do?
Okay, so there's two facets to my work. I'm a voiceover,
Mm-hmm.
which I've been doing for last 15 years, doing commercials and promo and all kind of interesting bits and bobs on the TV and radio. And
And
I
just for the context, voiceover is that little voice that you hear over commercials or over
exactly,
the radio spots, or
exactly.
yeah.
Um, but I'm in the voiceover community. I'm probably more known for my imaging,
Mm-hmm.
which is sort of, jingles
Mm-hmm.
kind of work. As I My first gig, big gig, was on BBC Radio One in the UK
Mm-hmm.
as the station voice, and that kind of propelled me into the other bits and bobs, getting agents, etc., etc. So that's one side of my working life. The other side is radio imaging production.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut my teeth in London at a company called Wise Buddha in the late 90s, where I found myself working with all my dance heroes, including Pete Tong, Judge Jules, Seth Fontaine, and I began creating these iconic imaging intros for these radio shows, and went freelance in 2002 to do my own work. Hooked up with a guy called John Askew, and began working with him, doing imaging for Carl Cox,
Mm-hmm.
and it moved on to various other DJs. So I began working with Armin van Buuren. I've been doing stuff for Sander van Doorn, Paul van Dyk, Nicky Romero.
Hmm.
As I mentioned into our previous conversation, I've got quite an affiliation with the Dutch.
Yeah.
So some of those iconic intros that your listeners may have heard include Martin Garrix is another one.
Oh yeah.
So those intros of those radio shows, that's what I do, and
Okay.
that's what I specialise in terms of production.
Okay. I'm guessing that most of the people listening haven't even thought about the fact that that's not made by the artist himself or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, artists do make their own intros,
Yeah.
but some of the bigger guys don't have the time. So yeah, they'll get me to do it, I guess.
And what's like the aside from not having the time, I'm guessing like you have, of course, a lot of experience in this field. So what's the difference between creating an intro yourself or letting someone like outsource it to someone like you?
Well, I think it's probably down to the individual that does the production,
Mm-hmm.
and having the kind of thinking outside of the box in terms of ideas and how to put them together.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about me, which can make my life difficult, is that I'm very consistent, but that works very well for production. Each of the projects that I work on is individual in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
This can be all the way down to the actual creation of the sounds and the sound design. So I think that's why people hire me, because I come at it from a different perspective. And, you know, I would say it's always best to get people to do what they're good at. You know, you do what you're good at.
Yeah.
Get a specialist on that other thing. So that's why I think it's a good idea to get an outside source to do your imaging production. Don't do it yourself.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like
I mean, you can save yourself money, obviously, by doing it yourself.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe you won't get such. I was going to say not such a great job, but I think you want it to sound original, and I think you want it to be the best it could possibly be. So yeah, get an expert on it.
And somehow I always think, like, when I listen to a radio show and those little jingles on top of it and voiceovers, that's what kind of is the sauce on the dish. Like it makes it just a little bit better, you know, like. Exactly. It also, makes the show sound individual. It makes it stick out from a very crowded marketplace. Yeah.
With Armin stuff, with the Estate of Trance stuff that I do, branding. I mean, it's big. I mean, this is what Armin does best.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation prior to the imaging going into production, and there's always a theme there, and then you work upon that theme. So it's the branding. It's that little bit of sound that sets your show out from everybody else's. So I think it's very important. Yeah, very important. But it also adds that level of professionalism to
Yeah, because it also requires a lot of mixing, right? Because it's so many small elements in there, like swooshes, effects, like little bleeps and blobs, and
absolutely. I mean, some of these productions are epic, and they are. I write music too, and they can be as complicated as putting a trance track together.
Yeah.
In terms of the fitting all the sonics together, making it all sit well.
It's more like a 15-second production.
It is, but it's a very intense. It can be a very intense, 15-second production. I had a recent job. Was that the client had a brief, and the brief was big explosions, planes flying over, jets taking off, rocket ships docking. It was kind of like Hollywood blockbuster into like 25, 30 seconds. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, very, very intense. That took some time to sort out. But it is fun. But it is that important first 25 seconds of the show. It's the here we go now, get ready. Certainly from some of the bigger projects I've worked on, it shaped the show, and the listeners to it respond. When you look at these days, when you look at the feeds on YouTube when the show starts, it was like, yeah, here we go, and a good intro will make the hair on your arms stand up. and that's your job. You've got to, get people ready for the show and get them vibed up. And I've been blessed to do these intros for some years, and the iconic intros of the late 90s, they were Pete Tong's Essential Selection. I mean, it was the soundtrack to people's weekends.
Yeah.
Back in the late 90s, it certainly to mine. So being able to work on those intros is an absolute privilege, as it is with some of the newer ones. Yeah.
It feels like the whole imaging thing is like an extra addition to the artist brand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like it kind of is a I'm not sure what the English word is, but it's kind of
it's the sonic identity.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can create an identity by visualizing it, by creating, and music of course as well. But imaging helps that as well.
Absolutely, it's the branding of your show. So this is why it's really important that you get it right, because it is like the beginning. It's where everything starts. It is that sonic ID that says, "Listen up, here comes this show."
Yeah.
Like I said, it's an important part of the brand, and that's why it's so important to get it right. You can have an intro where you have a couple of tracks playing, a couple of little noises, and have the voice. But some of the most memorable intros are ones that have a fresh and interesting idea that follow up on your particular brand values. I'm just trying to think of some which I've done, which have been Sean Tyas, Degenerate. If you listen to that, you'll hear there's this whole thing with this kind of apocalyptic sound, where all these kids are going crazy. There's all these news reports from around the world, saying about these kids dancing on the street, in the major cities, the traffic stopping, everything's just going absolutely nutty. But it's so bold and so clear and so interesting that, it captures the listener's attention straight away.
Yeah.
So some of those ideas are, will create, like massive visibility for your brand. It will stick out.
Yeah.
From all these other, podcasts,
And how do you you get an application from someone asking if you could do the intros or the outros or whatever you're asked to do.
Yeah.
But how do you make all those samples yourself, or do you sample them from like the news things that you just mentioned? Is that something you cut out, or?
No, I mean the news things were applicable to this brief, this idea that we came up with, which was based on the degenerate theme of Sean's. So all those news reports were written. I wrote those news reports, which I then got various voices to do. From I think there's an Australian one. There's someone in the States on the West Coast that got to do the voice. It was a big project, but I use trusted voices that can fulfill the brief of having a newsreader that sounds genuine.
Yeah.
So it made this piece sound even more eerie.
Yeah.
You might want to have a listen to yourself, and you can kind of get the idea.
What's it called? Degenerate?
So, if you got the time quickly now,
sure.
if you want to stop the interview and have a listen.
Degenerate?
So if you go to 66sound.com.
66sound.com. Yeah.
And then if you scroll down to the page where there's a SoundCloud player.
Listen, I guess.
Listen.
Yep, there it is.
And then you've got talent, you've got intros and
here it is. Sean Tyas, I am the
Yeah, listen to that.
Let me just quickly open it.
Yep.
This man's music is the cause of global unrest.
We all know him as Shantias, but many of his followers know him as the Degenerate.
Whatever name he goes by, he must be
stopped.
So you can hear from that, you know, that's not your, yeah, this is the podcast from blah, 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 blah. You know, there's a definite theme.
Like you're getting sucked into it. It's like a storytelling kind of thing.
Exactly. And so you can have these very kind of like earthy, kind of very gritty kind of openers. And then you've kind of got like this state of trance, which has a meaning to it, has a theme to it, but it's done on a different sort of like more uplifting scale.
That one's on here as well, right? Let's
yeah,
a
lot
quickly
more on
open
there.
it.
I have spent my life looking for a place.
Oh, this is an old one.
Sorry?
This is an old one.
Oh, should I take the new one? Oh,
yeah,
here it is.
I think one of the latest ones.
The latest one.
I had a dream last night. A vision. I saw a world full of people. Everybody was dancing and screaming loud. They were just there to listen to the music. It was deep. It was underground. I want to be in that moment. Are you guys ready for a state of trance? Put your hands in the air, come on! Your weekly update on the latest in trance and progressive. This is a state of trance with Armin and Bjorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a different kind of opener. That's like big, you know, it's epic, but it all relates to the music, obviously, that's going to be played. So you're, you know, as well as being the identity of the show, it also has to follow the format of what the show is all about. Sorry. And, you know, Armin's, I find those the most enjoyable to work on. With that particular package, with Armin's package, pretty much every single sound is sound designed from scratch. Obviously, you got Armin's music, which runs over the top.
Yeah.
But all the kind of like the sounds and everything are done from scratch.
Wow. Listening to those samples, I'm like, fuck, I need a new intro. I have such a cheesy intro. Like, oh, shit.
I'm sure I can hook you up.
Yeah. Like, I've been doing this podcast for, what's it, 3 years now? 2 years?
Sure.
I'm not sure. But every time I've never thought about the intro. Now listening to this, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I know, but you don't need to have like something like that. I mean, that is
no, but you're right. You know, like listening to the intros, it just sets you in this mood kind of thing. And I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, like more the talking podcasts from people.
Sure.
And there's a few of them who have professional intros, and it does give a different feel about it, right? It just it does something with you. So that's why I started thinking about it. But yeah, it sounds great. Great examples.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Thanks.
So is there anything you would... I'm really curious here. Like, would you advise someone, let's pick one of those, not necessarily a starting artist, but someone who already has like a career going, like not too big, but also not too small, and has a small budget to work with. Would you recommend them to create like a decent intro and radio imaging for their podcast? Or would you say spend that money different because it doesn't make sense to do it at such an early stage?
Well, the thing is, there's lots you can do for promotion without spending $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes effort, but you know, just a bit of bit of research, and a massive amount of visibility on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Do it the right way, you can do that at no cost. Sorry, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that at no cost. It is absolutely possible. Creating an intro for your show, that will cost money.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a worthwhile investment, and it's something you've got to do off the bat. I think if you want to go anywhere with this, if you want this to be, up there and visible,
mm-hmm.
And sound professional, absolutely 100% put what budget you have into the show production, the show itself. Now that might not just be the imaging. That's also to do with, the equipment that you're using to record your mixes and to record your voice if you are choosing to present it. The microphone is, your mouthpiece to the world. And if you're using something which is rubbish and sounds really tinny and nasty to listen to, people aren't going to want to listen to you.
Yeah.
It's just cold, hard fact.
Yeah.
They might like your mixes, but if you're, putting links in between the records and, and you sound duff, then that doesn't sound professional.
Yeah.
So maybe even invest your money into a decent microphone before you then, invest it into imaging. Maybe get something smaller put together, but it's, so it sounds all together.
Yeah.
But imaging is very important.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. If you're starting out, it is your little piece of identity that sets your tunes
mm-hmm.
selection out from everybody else. And it's your brand, so give it a lot of thought. But yeah, do definitely invest. And I'm not saying that, you don't have to come to me to get your imaging done. You can get it done. There's tons of people that do it out there now. Just make sure you'd say, again, do your research and make sure, the people that you're working with, produce a decent level of production.
Yeah, makes sense. Great tip. I actually, I believe what you're saying. I had the same thing as well as an artist.
And also, but if you've got no budget at all, then, if you do something, then keep it really simple, but clean, and, have a message in it, have some sort of like identity.
Yeah.
But don't try to make things too complicated and too cluttered, and don't make a long intro. No one really wants to listen to stuff from 2 minutes anymore.
What's like the maximum you would say an intro might take?
Probably 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Maybe if you've got a really strong theme, then longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, people like that shock. That yes, here we go, bang, that's going to the music. They don't want to listen.
Takes long. Yeah.
2.5 minutes. Okay, we've got that little mini mix. We're gonna and also, using dance, using tracks for your intros is probably not such a great idea these days, unless the music is very strong. But then, the intro will be out of date before you know it.
And probably will get blocked on all those platforms.
Yeah. So think the imaging is very important. Give it some thought, and if you've got the budget, definitely throw the budget in there. Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thanks again for taking the time to do this. And
no worries.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, and it's again like a different field in the music industry. That's what I like to do, like bring people value in every kind of possible part of the music industry. And even this, like I knew it existed. I've had my own imaging for my old radio show when I was still a DJ.
Yeah.
So I know how it works, but still I learned as well, and that's fun for me to do as well. So thanks for taking the time.
No problem.
And good luck with the business.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.